You're Runesmith, a magical caster who looks at the existing traditions of magic and says, screw that, I'm gonna make my own tradition with rock and stone. You are the envy of every other class in the game, capable of dealing massive damage via magic without having any spell slots. Yes, you are gonna be nerfed before your release, so con your DM into letting you play it now while you still can. Looking at your starting stats, you have 8 plus con health, and your key attribute is intelligence, because if you're inventing your own school of magic, you better be smart. Despite that, you only use intelligence for your spell save DCs on your runes, so you could just max out strength and constitution, because if you're not going to be smart, you better be tough. You start as an expert in fortitude saves because you refuse to let being a spellcaster keep you from being buff. That stubbornness is probably also why your will save started expert too. You start trained in crafting in your choice of any one of the magical traditions. You won't be using that tradition for anything other than drawing your runes, so you just go with whatever magic tradition looks prettiest on paper. You also gain a number of skills equal to 2 plus int. Following the theme of being better than other spellcasters, you are actually trained in martial weapons as well as simple and unarmed. You can also wear up to medium armor. That's right, melee spellcasting is back on the menu. Shockingly, as a runesmith, you forge runes. Runes can either be etched or traced, which determines how long the rune lasts. Etched runes permanently apply their effects to whatever it was etched upon, whilst traced runes are temporary bursts of magical might and only last until the end of your next turn. No matter how a rune is created, its effects are the same. To activate the effects of a rune, runesmiths may take the invocation action, surging power through it and consuming it in the process. Runesmiths, being big language nerds, also get diacritics, which are special types of runes not applied to a target, but instead to another rune, altering its effects. Imagine if Tolkien wrote the spell shape rules. Unnecessarily big word. Runesmiths prove they are truly superior to other spellcasters by breaking the chains of Vancian spellcasting that has haunted this genre for the last 60 years. Runesmiths don't have spell slots, but they do have a limited number of runes that they are able to learn at any given point, because learning more than 4 words at level 1 is evidently beyond your capability. Really not selling the intelligence aspect of this class, Paizo. At level 1, they can learn how to create 4 different runes and can only maintain 2 etched runes. Every 2 levels, they are able to learn a new rune to add to their repertoire, and every 4 levels, they're able to sustain another etched rune. Why are they limited in the number of etched runes they can maintain? Because every other class complained about how overpowered they are. You gain feats and skills at the normal rate of 1 class feat every other level starting at level 2, and 1 skill increase every other level starting at level 3. You do start with shield block at level 1 to compensate for not getting the shield spell. Your reflex saves catch up with the rest of your saves at the 7th level, and at level 11 you reach the rank of master in fortitude saves. Unfortunately, level 11 is also where you peak because your saves do not progress any further. Being as stubborn as you are, you refuse to let anyone outdo you in anything, so you scale like other melee classes in the martial talents. You gain expert weapon proficiency at level 5 and mastery at level 13. Your armor proficiency likewise advances to expert at level 13, and by level 19 you are a master of medium armor. Your spellcasting, runesmithing, scales at the same rate as other spellcasters, and you achieve the expert level at 7 and master at 15th. And at 19th, you hit Legendary. Runesmiths bring with them a whole new spellcasting system. Rather than expending one of those thrice-cursed Vancian spell slots, you instead take several actions to cast your magic. You must first trace a rune onto a target. If you're tracing a rune onto a target you can touch, this only takes 1 action. But if the target is further away, you can instead spend 2 actions to trace a rune in the air, and it appears on a target within 30 feet of you. There is no limit to the number of runes that can be traced at any given time, however they only last until the end of your next round. Once traced, you need to invoke the rune to activate the magic within. This takes 1 action, and the rune must be within 30 feet of you. You can activate any number of runes with the invoke action, though the targets bearing multiple copies of the same rune may only be affected once by that rune's effects, as is normal for duplicate effects. Runes also scale differently than other spells. When heightened, they instead scale with your level, and thus their heightening effects trigger at character level thresholds rather than spell level thresholds, and I cannot stress enough how much better this is than stupid spell levels. For proper Dwarven runesmiths, only melee will do. At level 1, you'll pick up Engraving Strike because it's objectively the best option. And don't look at Remote Detonation, that's not real. Trust me, Engraving Strike is the best one. This allows us to trace a rune as part of a strike once per round. Since we're using two-handed weapons, we won't be picking up Fortifying Knock, but instead Smithing Weapons Familiarity. If you don't pick this, are you really a dwarf? At level 4, you take Terrifying Invocation, allowing us to demoralize a target within range as part of our Invoke action. At level 6, we aren't interested in what's available, so we're going back to pick up Runic Tattoo, giving us a free rune permanently affixed to our body. For our runes, we'll be taking Atril, Rune of Fire, which inflicts a fire resistance penalty of 6 on a target and deals 2d6 damage when invoked with a basic fortitude save at level 1. This damage scales by 2d6 every 2 levels, meaning at level 3 you're dealing 46 damage and at level 5 66. Yes, this is overpowered. Marcel, Rune of Impact, which we'll be placing on our maul, gives it +1 bludgeoning splash damage per weapon die, and on invocation the rune deals an additional die of damage. Ranchu, Rune of Thunder, lets us draw lightning to a target, dealing 1d4 damage every round they don't move while having this rune traced on them. Invoking it brings down the thunder, dealing 2d6 damage, and yes, it also scales at 2d6 every 2 levels. Now back to the feats. Level 8 brings Drawn in Red, a free action that allows us to trace a rune on a target we've just successfully hit with a melee strike, and at level 10 we are once again uninterested in their offerings, so we go back to take Words Fly Free, allowing us to invoke our Runic Tattoo, tracing it onto all targets within a 15-foot cone. At the 12th level, we pick up Expanded Glossary as we struggle to learn the alphabet. Level 14 gives us the choice of Dance of the Bloody Ink or Define the Canvas. If you find yourself in greater need of AoE, Define the Canvas would be wise, as it gives us a 20-foot burst application of a rune of our choice. Otherwise, rip and tear until it is done with Dance of the Bloody Ink, which lets you invoke a rune on your weapon and strike the target. If you hit, you may step and strike again, tracing a rune onto the target of that strike. Both attacks count towards your multiple attack penalty, but you do not increase it until all attacks have been made. At this point, you have the power of the ancestor gods and anime on your side, so pick whatever you want, and that's the Runesmith. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe.